Stand by, please.
John's ready.
Sorry, I'm ready now.
You're trying to juggle two jobs there, aren't you?
Tracy's on the phone, but yes, she's at home at the moment. So shall I call roll, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir, please.
Julie McDonald.
Here.
Hannah Bazinet.
Here.
Jim C.
Here.
Billy Schoonover.
Here.
Michael Campnich.
Here.
Chanel McKinley.
Here.
Mayor Tim O'Connor.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thanks, John. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Move to adopt. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Moving on. Hearing from the public. We're open for public comment. If anybody's on the phone.
Is there a member of the public on the phone who would like to comment at this time?
Okay. We'll move on. I see your resolution. 2117 is going to be down later, right, John?
Yes, sir. All these items will be
Later.
later on the agenda.
Okay. Moving on, reports from the city officials. Administrator.
And Mr. Mayor, there is a written report in the packet, and I've sent the council a couple of email updates since last week. But if any of that generated any questions, we have to try to answer them.
Okay. Anybody have questions for John? Is that a yes, Mike?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on, treasurer. Which is home.
She is home.
Aquatic manager.
I submitted a written report, and I'll be happy to attempt to answer any questions.
How's it going at the pool? Any help?
No,
Has Bear been back there to help her teach kids to swim or what?
no.
Dang. Okay, any questions for the manager, aquatic manager? No? City clerk? Got anything to say?
I did submit a written report before I had the quarantine, and the things to note is that we'll be closed on Monday, September 6th for the Labor Day holiday, and the alternate garbage schedule is for Monday's trash to be picked up on Tuesday, and the next city council meeting, third Thursday of the month would be September 16th, 2021.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, ma'am.
under the next city council meeting, I will be available. I'll be on travel status.
Okay. Any more questions for the clerk? None? Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
City planner.
I submitted a written report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
How many active cases you got?
8. We had 1 case drop off today, 2 new cases, but one of them was an out-of-state, a resident who's currently out of state and has been their whole infectious period now, and actually just got reported today and dropped off the same day. So we lost one today, picked up one today. We're hanging at 8 active cases. Great.
Wow. We're doing better than the rest of Alaska then, at this point.
We're better than the rest of the island. I think we're still about 35 active cases on the island right now.
Yeah, that puts us up, what, 900 or 1,000 per 100,000 or something?
Yeah.
Which is the very high category for infection. Okay, any questions for Mr. Planner? No? Fire and EMS, you on there, Minnie?
I am here, and I did submit a report. I'm available
Okay, any questions for Minnie?
Nope, keep up the good work. Thank you, Minnie.
Yeah, second that,
Thank
Minnie.
you, I appreciate that. I appreciate it very much, thank you.
Thanks, Minnie.
Thank you, have a good night.
You too. Harbor Master.
He's excused, Mr. Mayor.
Oh my God. Why bring him?
I submitted a written report. I would be happy to answer any questions. I'll be leaving in about a week and I'll be gone for 2 weeks. But Michelle will hold down the fort in the meantime. And we finally have an application for our open position, so hopefully I'll be able to interview and hire somebody when I get back.
Angela will be gone next 2 weeks, Mr. Mayor. She's on her way to get married, so
Oh my God.
congratulations, Angela.
Congratulations.
Here I thought you were going elk hunting.
Thank you. No. No,
Well, congratulations, even if you're not gonna kill an elk.
thank you.
All right, Public Works, or no, wait a minute, I missed somebody. Police Chief, sorry, RJ.
That's all right, I'm used to being overlooked. I submitted a written report, be happy to answer any questions if there's any.
Any questions for RJ? Any new officers on the horizon?
With any luck, I'll have one starting tomorrow.
Goodness, that was quick.
Not quick enough, but, I will take it.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that, thanks. Any questions for RJ? None? Public Works, Doug? Nope, Russell, sorry.
Yeah, I've, submitted a written report as required. Be more than happy to answer any questions you may have concerning that report.
I have a question there, Russell. I'm wondering if you could get together with RJ. We have a couple areas of parking that need to be posted properly so that we can enforce parking. Kind of the area below First Bank, I think needs a couple of more signs. That's a 24-hour parking area. There's one car that's been there for 4 months now. The TK sign is behind it. And the signs need to be put back up for the 1 hour parking down between the entrance to the area that we rented the old fuel dock and down in front of Seeley's building. Those were taken down when Mr. Seeley put that building in, and they need to be put back up because the people that work at Dockside have switched from we finally got them out of the 1 hour parking next to them, and now they park there every day. So they're still impacting, even though the city has given them all that lot down the way. So if we could get those with the proper posting so the guys can enforce it, I'd appreciate that greatly.
Okay, that was originally, 1 hour parking.
Yeah, downtown was, and in the old days, the original signs that came down said 1 hour, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. so that you could have people there park the car overnight while they were at the bar, because the bars used to be busy enough. We needed that parking there, but something like that, either 1 hour parking or, but we don't need to get a specialized sign like that. I think a 1 hour parking is in order with all of the extra parking that we have down at the other end there. We've got 8 hour parking down there and some 1 hour parking signs, so.
Yep, I'll start working on that right away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Russell? Yes, you hung up on, so well. Recreation.
Well, good evening. I submitted a report and want to remind everybody to come out and help me pick up trash on Saturday. I'll be down at North Pole with Katrina PD and we'll hand out bags and have a blast. Rain gear may be required, but do you have any questions?
None that I know of. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Parks and public facilities. Now we got Doug.
He's traveling. I don't think he's dialed in.
Probably not.
He's traveling on sick leave. I think Sherry is available though now, Mr. Mayor.
Sherry, you want to make a report?
I've submitted a report and would be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Mike?
This is Julie. I have a question. I don't know how feasible it'll be able to do on the phone.
Okay,
On the revenue and expenses year-to-date that you gave us, this, I don't know why this has always confused me. So when you look at each column where it has total expenditures, like let's say first one, administration, it will say total expenditures 680, 265, and then next to it it says 681, 519. And then below it, the excess revenue over and under, it's just the same number as above, which it seems to me that it should be the difference. And it's that way for page 1, 2, and 3 of the report. But then when you go to page 4, it switches to being the difference. So on sewer, now it's 27, you know what I mean? Like, I've never really understood this form. And it's not a non-understood. Sorry, go for it. It's the way it's always been. So this is not a criticism of you, its form's always been this way.
and is this a form that I sent you guys each council member each month?
I don't think it's every month. I think it's maybe, I don't know how often you give it to us, but whenever it comes up, I always go cross-eyed looking at it because of that one column. The excess revenue over under, because for some columns it's the total, and then later in the report, it's the actual difference between the two. And maybe I'm just not reading it correctly because I'm not a accountant, obviously.
I'm trying to pull that report up real quick to see what one you're talking about.
Which page on our packet, Julie, again?
Okay.
16.
All right, I printed it out, so hang on, let me get to that.
So I think that's just because it's only if it goes over the budget, right? So I'm just talking about this right here.
So, on page 14, 15, and 16, that column where it's either red and black, depending on if it's over or under, it's the same number as above. But then when you go to page 17 of our packet, it looks like it becomes the difference on some columns, but not others. I don't know, maybe I just need to sit down with you, Sherry, and you can explain this better to me.
Yeah, I see what you used to.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely do that. My internet connection decided to be really slow, so it's not pulling, it's taking the time to pull it up. But I would love to be able to meet with you and do that.
Okay, well, just I think it'd be better in person, so just email me when you're available to meet in person.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
I had a question too.
Moving on.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
I
sorry.
have a question on parks and public facilities. Just curious, I see he's listed here, build a bear trap for city use. I don't have a problem with that. My concern is we had this discussion in the past and the working with ADF and G to do this appropriately. And I'm just curious if this is something that we've worked with ADF and G on, and are they familiar with it and copacetic with it? And our intended use for it, or whatever it would be.
Well, I haven't talked to them about this for a year. At the time, I asked them if we could borrow their trap. They declined
Right.
my request. So their advice was, what you typically hear them say, secure your garbage, keep it inside. Bears will find somewhere else to go and eat. And that is good advice. It's the practice that I follow. Not everybody can follow that. I think given your living, your housing circumstances, not everyone's got a place to put garbage inside. So, they don't favor relocating bears because bears have crossed waterways and traveled 100 miles to get back to where they were after they were relocated. Their preference is just to remove the attractant. If that's not possible, then I'm not sure what their advice would be. They're reticent to say you can dispatch a bear. I can understand why. I think the bear trap provides us the opportunity to also relocate bears without, as a means not to immediately resort to shooting them.
Yeah. I would think that the bear trap might also give us the chance to trap a bear that has already been
Habituated.
through all the things and he's ready to be shot. Some of them are good enough that they can't get the good shot. And if they know the bear because they've seen them, they all have their own special markings. They got the white chest, the bars, a broken ear. I was assuming they were doing it so they could catch it, to take it out and dispatch it safely, rather than, because they're really good about not shooting them in a bad situation.
Right, that is another potential use of
That would be
the trap.
That would what I would consider the trap used for, because there's no sense relocating, because like they said, they come right back. That's a waste of time.
This is RJ, can I say something?
Go ahead, RJ.
Yeah, I'm in touch with Fish and Game weekly about different bears, different issues, and what we can do. And like Jim is stating, there's many times that there will be a bear that basically has been deemed too dangerous and needs to be put down, and we'll spend weeks, if not a month or longer, trying to get that one perfect shot, which might only be 5 or 6 seconds. And with this bear trap, if we trap it, if we confirm that it's the bear that we've decided meets the criteria through state law to be disposed of, then we can take it out and safely do that. We don't have to worry about a round going to some other location.
That's what I was asking, is if we're doing whatever, that answers my question, so that's
Right.
great.
Yeah,
Fine.
I'm assuming I assumed that's what it was for. And yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem with it, I just was curious if we are doing the follow-up when we are, so fine.
Thanks, RJ.
Okay, moving on. I think. Alaska Department of Fish and Game request to report wolf sightings online. They're requesting that for all the island residents?
It's a public notice, so yeah, it applies to the whole game unit, all residents and visitors. Request on their part is a means to help them track wolf sightings and population.
Mike, do you know, are they already tuned into the one that we already have?
No, what,
We already have a Prince of Wales wolf sighting
Facebook page.
Facebook page. I'm wondering whether Fish and Game is tuned into that so that they understand how many that one already has.
I know they're aware of the page, I don't know how closely they follow it, because their page, which I report on this and follow it, it has criteria, certain, they ask you a lot of information about general area, you've seen it. Actually, it's, with the way they have it set up, it's pretty cool. It's an interactive page, so they have satellite imagery of Prince of Wales, you can scroll around it. You can, put a little, you put your cursor on where you've seen a wolf, you mark it, it's still private. I mean, nobody else is gonna see it, but a couple of people at Fish and Game. that monitor it and then correlate all this data. And so I think that, I know they're aware of the Facebook page, but I don't think that they, they're not using that as part of their tracking in official, work. And this page, what's being, asked of people here, it has been numerous times been shared online with the people on the Prince of Wales Facebook page to make them aware of reporting on there, and people frequently do. So, I think this is good. They continue to do this. As an aside, the satellite imagery on this is much better than Google Earth. It's really good to use. I go there all the time and use the satellite imagery on this thing, zoom in, look around, check things out. So.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Moving on.
So, Tim, are we on, reading of the correspondence?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I discuss the letter from Ketchikan Humane Society?
Who are you?
This is Julie McDonald.
Thank you, Julie. Yeah, Julie, go ahead.
I was reading through the letter, and I would really love, at our next meeting, if we could, invite the people that run PAWS. And now I'm feeling like that's not the name, but the rescue group on Island. I would love to invite them to our next meeting and maybe just talk with them about their efforts and because I know there's some large needs on the island. So I don't know, in response to that, I would love to get PAWS, whatever the group's called, their feedback.
Okay.
Hi, Julie. If I could speak?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Pilar. So, I'm with PAWS, which, Prince of Wales Animal Welfare Society. And currently, I'm a board member, and unfortunately, there's no real board at the moment. We had Shannon Chaney, who was running the board for many years. And with COVID happening with last year, we unfortunately lost our board. And she is wanting to drop off, and then that leaves me. And I'm trying to get some people on board now to get some volunteers. And right now, we don't really have anyone. So right now, we're just basically I'm helping the police station with the animals that are in the shelter that are being put in there. And we're not doing any fostering at the moment because that has been hard because we don't have any foster homes. Let's see, and our goal in the future, in the near future, is I'm wanting to look into getting, spaying and neutering for our community, for the animals to help with the population control. That is my goal. And not just for low income, but for anyone who needs it. So basically, we don't have to worry about fostering out or surrendering of animals. So we don't have this issue. And I have not been receiving phone calls. So when I saw this letter, I wasn't even aware this was happening. But then again, people haven't maybe been reaching out to PAWS because there hasn't really been a pause. So I'm going to be reaching out to this agency and trying to see if we can give them some money for especially all these animals that have been coming from Craig to help them out financially. But we need board members, we need volunteers, so we need assistance ourselves because all of this, obviously, we need help ourselves. So thank you. I don't know if there are any questions.
No, Pilar, that's really great. I didn't know you were there.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't tell you. But it was a necessity today. Anyways, so thank you, that gives us a lot of information. I think PAWS is a great organization, there's obviously a need on the island. I commend the work that PAWS has been doing on this thing, and New Dorian is definitely a proactive approach, and I would love for the city to, help support that effort in any way that are able to. And so, yeah, just before we were giving money to the Ketchikan Humane Society, I kind of wanted to run it through our local PAWS first to see what they think. I wanted to support our local group first before moving on. Not that I don't want to help the Ketchikan, I just wanted to go through the steps first.
Folks on the standby on the phone, the mayor's out of the room. He'll return shortly. We'll just take a quick at ease unless there's additional questions or comments.
On those, reports that you guys were looking at, the ones that are different is because there's revenues, and you'll see the revenues at the very top. And then if there's no revenue, it's the same number, because there's no revenue. On page 16, 17, 15, 16, 17. That's why there's a different number, or not a different number.
Okay. Anything else on reading correspondence there we need to address, John?
I have an issue. This Salmon Beyond Borders resolution request by the Southeast Alaska Indigenous Transboundary Commission and Salmon Beyond Borders. I would just like to encourage us to consider doing the resolution as they've asked. We're affected by, we fish, this fishing community, the pollutants and, the things that go on in them rivers affect us out here just as much as they do Ketchikan, Wrangell, Petersburg. And I think that, showing the support for them from a commercial fishing community is important.
Did the state cease funding for those guys?
That I don't know.
Well, I know they were working on something there, but I'm not sure where it was.
I would caution the council about signing on to anything that the United Nations has adopted. I mean, it's worded very broadly, and it might be better to focus more on locally specified interests rather than something as broadly tailored as the UN typically does. So if there's enough council interest, I can try to draft something.
I would like to, in some manner, support the concept of this because it's what they're doing over there, permitting these, we have a major one on one of these, it's the Keene, Unic, the Taku. If we have something like happened at Mount Polly, you can't go back from that. You're not going back. You're not going to reclaim that. I mean, the Fraser is it's just plummeted. The sockeye returns and other fish there, and I think we have to support them if we want to adopt our own along the lines of this and make it, where we're comfortable with it. I'm okay with that, but I would like to support them in some way. And they clearly have not been, British Columbia has not been responsive to appropriate permitting protocols in their minds.
It really doesn't make any sense that they're not, because the First Nation has more power in BC and the Yukon than the government entities do. So it doesn't make any sense to me that
they're not. They're still permitting them. Going ahead on it anyways, trying to. I mean, there has been more, the State Department has become involved. They've had discussions with Canada and British Columbia about this issue and reminded them of the treaty. But they continue to push forward in a lot of these major mines. And like I said, you don't get a second chance on some of these major mines. It's no different than Pebble, what's happened at Pebble and how catastrophic that could be. So I would like to see us try to acknowledge support of, the effort to make sure that they're being accountable in their permitting process. I'm not saying don't do it, but make sure it's an accountable permitting process.
Okay. We can look into that, John, and see what they're requesting and what we agree to.
Okay.
Any questions on the Sumner Capital Management Statement?
That's wonderful.
What are we up to, John?
16,300,000 approximately, yesterday or today, yesterday, I think,
And we almost had 3 million in the other one, right?
2.9,
Yeah, plus.
right.
Interesting.
The school fund does not follow the market so closely. It's much more cautiously invested. So when you see big gains and losses in the city's fund, typically the school fund hardly changes at all.
Conservative investors. Okay, moving on. Consideration of resolutions and ordinances. Resolution 20.
Tim,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Julie McDonald, can we put the matter of, the donation or support to the Ketchikan Humane Society, can we put that on the next meeting agenda?
I've already made a note of it.
Yeah, John's made a note of it, he said, so we'll talk more about it in the next meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Consideration of resolution and ordinances, resolution 21-17, CDL road test fees.
Adopt resolution 2117.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 21-17, CDL road test fees. Any discussion on this?
Question for RJ. RJ, is this actually enough money to cover the costs, or do you need more?
I think it's fair, as far as whether it's Class A, Class B, Class C, CDL, my conversation with Travis, who's gonna be doing these. I say that we do this, we can revisit it after a year, or even after 6 months, but it'll give me a really good idea as far as what it's gonna entail. But I think right now it's much more fair for the city versus the current rates that we have at the moment.
Okay.
Call for the question.
Okay. This a voice vote?
Roll call, sir.
Roll call.
Hannah Bezanet,
Yes.
Lily Schoonover,
Yes.
Michael Campnich,
Yes.
Julie McDonald,
Yeah,
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Jim C.
Yes.
6-0.
Ordinance number 739, authorizing sale of city property to Miranda Home.
Move to adopt ordinance number 739.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 739, authorizing the sale of city property to Miranda Home.
Mayor, so this is kind of similar to the last couple of discussions we've had about land sales. We do have a little bit more recent information on this lot. This lot was appraised both in 2013 and 2017 as part of the group of residential lots that the city sold. In 2017, the lot appraised out at about $65,000. And then there was a survey after that appraisal that moved the Neander line seaward, so it actually added a couple of thousand square feet to the lot size. So my assumption would be that if the square foot value holds from the last appraisal, that the appraisal higher, the appraisals will likely be higher, but again, those appraisals both fall out of the 12-month window, so new appraisals would be required. Kind of similar to the last discussion, kind of depending on where the council feels, if they feel that those values are likely to be, the appraisal value is likely to be appropriate. You can have the applicant pay for the appraisal up front. If the council wants to reserve more discretion to increase the value after the appraisal comes in, then like we did for AT&T, probably more transparent for us to pay for the appraisal up front and add to the cost of the lot. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I'm in favor of paying for the appraisal and then adjusting the price accordingly. We did have something where we can add our percentage to that we want to, correct?
There's nothing that prevents the council from doing that in code already, so.
Okay.
It's already allowed, so.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, the only requirement in code is that the sale is at a minimum of the appraised value. There's really no restrictions beyond that for the council already in code.
I have a question on this. Brian, is Ms. Hahn, is she aware of kind of the recent way we've been approaching this in terms of we pay for appraisal and then, the potential of adding some kind of a percentage for what we believe is a fair price value?
I do recall having a vague discussion with her about this a few months ago when she was first interested.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, if she's pursuing this and she's aware of the possibility of that, then she's continuing to pursue it. I think that's the way to go.
It might be prudent to write up a letter that states what our position is.
Sure.
That we will pay for the appraisal and it will be added to the cost of the lot, as well as if the council feels it needs to increase it. So she knows what she's walking into. She can read it.
I'd be happy to put that together.
Good.
Let her know, so if the council approves that tonight, I'll pass that information on to her in a letter.
Okay. Moving on to, any more questions on that? Anybody? I'm sorry.
We need to vote on it?
Yes.
Oh, we want to vote on that? Then voice call,
Roll call.
roll call vote.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Jim C.,
Yes.
Billy Schoonover,
Yes.
Judy McDonald,
Yes.
Michael Campnich.
Yes.
Hannah Bezanet.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, John. Ordinance number 740, supplemental budget.
Move to approve second reading of ordinance number 740 fiscal year 2021 supplemental budget.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve ordinance 740 supplemental budget. Any discussion on
This
that?
is Sherry, and I want to say thank you.
Okay.
The only comment I would have is I think that, considering everything that's been going on the last year and a half or so, and our community has been really fortunate that we've financially been able to weather the challenges that we've seen before us.
Yeah. We've got a good crew, thank God.
Good crew, and we've been fortunate in the way things have kind of worked for us financially, so a lot of communities have really struggled. Anyways, I just want to say I'm thankful. I think there are communities, things have gone well for us, considering. Appreciate the support of our staff putting this stuff together and keeping track of it.
They have worked hard on this, keep us afloat. Okay. Got another roll call vote,
It is, when you're ready to vote, yes.
Are we ready?
Question?
I think you're ready, John.
Yes, sir. Not quite as good as Sherry. Tracy, excuse me.
We're patient.
Jim C.
We are.
Yes.
Chanel McKinley.
Yes.
Julie McDonald.
Yes.
Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Lily Schoonover.
Yes.
Hannah Bazinet.
Yes.
6-0, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. Ordinance number 741, method for setting senior card fee.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. To approve ordinance 741, method for setting senior card fee. Open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, this was a request that came, I think it came up during the budget process. Because the fee is set in ordinance, in order to modify or eliminate it, it has to be done by ordinance. And there was some dissatisfaction with the relatively high price of the card as well. So if this ordinance is adopted, there is no fee established other than one that the council will subsequently set by resolution, and then can subsequently modify by resolution at a single meeting. What that fee will be, I don't know yet. It'll be up to the council to come up with a rate. And I think the cards do expire at the end of this year. So we'll be coming back to the council with a resolution and a recommendation on fee.
Well, cards are good for a year, is it? Like $20 a card or something?
I think it's multiple years
I
now.
think we got 3 years out.
Is it 3 now?
Yeah, I think so too.
$20 for 3 years, so. They were supposed to be in line with ours, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, they're the ones that pushed it.
So did Thornbag.
And ours is 75 for 2 years?
3.
3 years.
24. So yeah, for 3 basically.
Yeah. Any questions on this? Did you get your card?
The one question sorry. So if somebody comes in to apply for a card right now for the remainder of this year, there is no fee set.
If
Once
this is
we pass
adopted,
this ordinance.
that's correct, yeah.
So they're gonna get a free one that's good until June.
Until January.
I thought they were up in June.
I thought they were up in December.
What does your card say?
I don't have the city one.
I didn't.
They expire the end of December.
Oh, December. Yeah. So yeah, they just get 3 months.
So we could set the resolution next month for the following year. That resolution should be on, so should we discuss the amount now, or should we pass this and discuss the amount, or?
Either way works. We're happy to take the input from the council on whatever you think the fee ought to be. That would assist us in writing up the resolution, which you can still modify when the time comes.
So we can pass this ordinance first and then.
Yeah, probably should do that, since that's the motion on the floor.
We'll do that and then set the fee at the next meeting. Okay, good.
Ready to vote, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Michael Campbell,
Yes.
Julie McDonald,
Yes.
Lily Schoonover,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Hannah Bazinet,
Yes.
Jim C.
Yes.
Motion carries. 6-0.
Unfinished business, new business. Consider approval of FY 2020 financial audit.
Move to approve the City of Craig fiscal year 2020 audit.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to consider approval of the FY 2020 financial audit. This a roll call vote?
It can be a voice vote since it's just by motion. There is a cover memo in the packet. Shirley, is there anything you want to mention as to the consideration of the audit?
No, not on this one, and I've sent out an email to Christine for the fiscal year 21 audit, and I have not heard back, but we're hoping in the next month or two to do that one.
So I advised the council in an email a month or two ago that Christine told me she was going to document a finding in the audit, and indeed, that's exactly what she did. I covered that in the memo as well. It's something that staff will need to work on rectifying. And we've consulted with Christine on how to approach eliminating the finding from the next audit. Although I will advise you that there's a very short time between the field work for the audit that you're considering tonight and the field work for the next audit. It's only going to be a few months as opposed to 12 months. So we may not be able to fully address the finding in that short amount of time, but we've got a plan in place to have a finding-free audit at least by FY 2022.
Yeah, I'm still confused as to what the problem was, because you said we could find it on page 85, and I thought you meant page 85 of this packet, but you mean page 85 of the audit?
Yes, sir.
I was like, I guess I didn't get that far into reading to find out what the problem was, but I can come discuss that with you at some other point.
Sure. I will say, in spite of the finding, the audit is unmodified, which is the type of certification of the audit that you desire to have. So it's that part is positive. We just need to work on our internal processes a little bit more.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
You know, I just would like to say that was, you know, when you hear about audits and when they find problems, you know, the first thing, it's easy, I shouldn't say the first thing, but it's easy to think of nefarious things. You know, clearly that wasn't what the case was here. It was just, you know, getting some processes in place to better document activity that we are having. There was no material changes to our audit overall in terms of, you know, where did this go or why isn't this here? So I'm fine with this. We have a plan in place to, figure it out and do better going forward, and that works for me.
So is this approval of the voice vote?
Yes, sir. Voice vote.
Voice vote. Okay. All in favor of approving FY 2020 financial audit, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Mayoral nomination of Doug Rhodes for IFA at-large member board seat.
This is really an advisory item, Mr. Mayor. It doesn't require council affirmation or response. It's a courtesy. They're notifying you that the mayor wants to exercise his power under the IFA meeting ordinance to nominate Doug Rhodes for the vacant at-large seat. If council has comments or questions, this would be an opportune time to raise them.
Council have any comments?
Doug's a good selection.
Okay. We'll nominate Doug then. Moving on, Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Boy, that's a nice one. FFCRA, extension of COVID sick leave benefit options.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I kept the cover memo in the packet to one page, trying to be merciful. There is a recommended motion at the bottom of the page that I'd encourage the council to consider adopting. And I'll be happy to answer questions if there are any.
Any questions or you want to discuss on this one?
I would move to adopt the motion as recommended. Memo.
Second.
Motion's been made to adopt the motion as recommended. And all in favor of that signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes.
Thank you.
Cannery Site Harbor Concept Drawing Contract.
So, Mr. Mayor, the only thing I guess I was not merciful, but that was about 2 pages. But I do want to add, just to clear up kind of the process that the company is proposing to do, but they're calling a studio, which is where they will come to town. And in addition to the meetings at the end of that 4 or 5 days with the Planning Commission and Harbor Advisory Committee, and if we can get drawings redone and scheduled with the City Council, the contractor, our contract calls for at least 3 public meetings. So over the course of that 4 or 5 days, probably the first couple of days, they'll hold 2 evening meetings and 1 daytime meeting where they will give the public some additional opportunity to come in and comment on the draft concept drawings that they will show up with to start the discussion. So the process will be that they draft up some 2 or 3 concept drawings to start with, take public comment on those, and then take those comments. We'll hold a joint workshop with the Planning Commission and Harbor Advisory Committee, who will narrow it down to kind of a single drawing, probably some combination of the drawings that they start with. And then that will end up either at the end of that studio time or the next City Council meeting, depending on how the schedule works out. And we'll come to the City Council for some final comments before Corvus comes back with a final concept design. Their initial schedule put them at being in Craig the week of September 20th, but our harbor master is going to be out of town, so if the council approves the contract with Corvus tonight, one of the first things that I'm going to ask them to do is push that trip to Craig off by a week. So I'm really looking at the week of September 27th through October 1st for Corvus to be here to do that public work and go through those design iterations. Beyond that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So they're gonna do that, then they'll come back and have the public meetings once they've done the look through and said the buildings need to be torn down and blah, blah, whatever.
Actually, they're planning on doing almost all of the work in town during that week. So they'll bring everybody they need to do the walkthroughs, which are just gonna be very cursory walkthroughs of those high priority buildings. And they'll bring some drawings with them already, but they will do the revisions of the drawings while they're here, kind of day to day, for each different group. So their plan is to limit the number of field trips in order to complete all of the work that we're asking for.
I noticed, I sent you a copy of an email that I received from John, I believe, but there was another cannery site in the state that got put on the historical listing. What does that pertain? Does that mean that government's gonna help you fix it, or what?
It's the National Register of Historic Places is really a double-edged sword. There is money available through grant programs specifically for historical property, but as soon as you register a property, you severely limit what you can do with it outside of generally straight preservation or some mandated preservation efforts by generally by the state historic preservation officer who kind of manages those properties in the state. So we have up to this point generally avoided trying to get any of the buildings or the property as a whole listed. That's probably one of the things that we'll talk about once we get a little bit clearer idea of what we want to do with the cannery site. Because again, there is some funding that is available to those properties under that circumstance, but there are a lot of restrictions. And so it really, my view has always been that we need to make some decisions about what we want to do with the property before we list anything on the National Register, just because we don't want to start limiting our own options even before we make decisions about the property. But yeah, it's certainly, the cannery certainly qualifies. Most of the buildings meet, at least some of the buildings meet most of the requirements. Most of the buildings meet some of the requirements. The cannery site as a whole meets some of the requirements, but yeah, it's something we'll be looking at as we move forward.
Thanks, Brian. Any more questions, Matt? Anybody? We need to vote on that, John?
Yes. It would be the appropriation of funding to pay for the work. So voters need.
Yeah, I don't think we made a motion yet. Would move to approve a contract with Corvus Design Incorporated to complete the planning work on the cannery site harbor project as outlined above, including the HABs documents and economic programming contract amount not to exceed $87,500, including the $50,000 already appropriated and an additional $37,500 appropriated from the city's general fund.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the contract for the concept drawing contract on the harbor site. Is that a voice? Yeah. So all in favor of that?
There's no discussion on the motion you made, Mr. Mayor.
I thought we did just now, but any discussion on this, you guys?
Actually, I'm still a little confused on the HABs part. So that's an additional $23,000 to have them look at it under the historical building situation?
So the HABS stands for Historical American Building Survey. It's a process primarily used by the National Park Service to document historic buildings. It's generally a little bit short of listing buildings on the National Register. It's one of the steps leading up to it, though. The reason that I included the HABs in the request and am requesting the funding for it up front is that as part of the breakwater project with the Corps of Engineers, we're currently working through the draft of a memorandum of agreement between the city, Corps of Engineers, and the State Historic Preservation Officer to mitigate effects to historic and cultural resources. And these HABs documents are one of the things that the Corps in the draft memorandum has has given us the responsibility to complete as part of the general mitigation of the overall development project. And so including it with this design work, the feeling is that it's a lower cost than if we were to later on contract an archaeologist separately just to do the HABs work.
So do we get to write this off if it's a core requirement against the way we get to do other in-kind stuff, if it's their requirement? You know what I mean, towards our match? This $23,000 part of this, I mean, I know the uplands is ours and that, but if the Corps is saying we have to do it, I would think that it would be able to be part of the match, because some of the other stuff we've done down there, we consider match, right?
It's usually done by, Brian can elaborate, but when we do something the Corps otherwise has to do, that's where we get the credit, the in-kind work. They have to represent something the Corps is required to do, is that right, Brian?
No, it's something that they're looking at as part of the overall mitigation for the project. So they're trying to find projects that we can do that will satisfy the State Historic Preservation Office for impacts both by the, well, not both, but by the Breakwater Project, by the Inner Harbor Project, and by the Upland Development Project, and wrap them together. So there is some question as to whether this will be a dollar for dollar offset or in kind to the Corps project, because as John says, the Upland is not necessarily the Corps project. There's only a couple of places where the Corps project touches the Upland, but the Corps is including all of this work, again, kind of as broader mitigation for all three portions of the project, which are all going to require some negotiation with the State Historic Preservation Office.
The more agencies we get involved in this, the worse I like it.
And what it comes down to here is any project that requires federal money has to have what's called a Section 106 review as part of the National Historic Preservation Act, which requires consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office and affects to historical and cultural resources for any project that has federal funding involved in it. The State Historic Preservation Office is going to require some level of mitigation. So they generally do not simply sign off on projects that affect buildings that are potentially historically and culturally significant. And so this HABS work would be part of all of our discussions with the Corps on all parts of the project in terms of providing some mitigation for whatever impacts not the Corps, but the SHPO determines will occur. But it's a requirement of every project that has federal money in it.
So this would be some kind of an archaeological requirement then, by using this report from them as part of the evaluating the archaeological site.
Yeah, so even if there's a little in-kind credit to the Breakwater project, this will be a significant amount of mitigation for the Upland Development Project and for the Inner Harbor Project, which are ours, and which at some point we'll have to deal directly with SHPO on.
I understand trepidation, I do.
I mean, it's the word he used, it could end up biting us in the rear end is what I'm looking at. This is what worries me about this.
I think I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, I think that likely this documentation is going to be required if there's any federal money involved in the upland development.
Right, I mean, basically, we already know that the wiring is gone, the whole thing is rotten, and it's like, so if they decide it's a historic building, are we stuck with having to spend millions of dollars to repair it?
No, and in fact, this HABS documentation is very much a part of, again, so in our negotiations with the SHPO, they may require some mitigation, and it may be photo documentation, it may be publishing some historical information of the site. These HABS documents are part of documenting the history of the site, but none of them convert a building to having to be preserved. In fact, these other processes are often used in place of preservation. So the SHPO often says, you've done a great job documenting the history of that building, go ahead and tear it down, or whatever the proposed development is.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions on this? Now we can do a vote?
If there's no more discussion, yes, sir.
All in favor of this? Signify by aye, please.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Thank you, council.
Yeah, thank you, council. This is an important step. It just builds on the public input work you've already done. Gives the public another chance to look over the design work and participate firsthand with renovation, with changes to the conceptual layouts of the property. So I just think it's a really good move to help public get more familiar with the project.
It will help us. These drawings are gonna be a big help, not only gathering that public information, but helping inform some of our decisions moving forward as we do start to make decisions about what to do with the buildings and what to do with the property generally.
Okay. We'll move on to appointment of a city administrator recruitment committee. Now, I've decided on 3 people I want to put on this committee to help me or help us find a new city administrator. As we all know, John has tendered his resignation, and the people I want to appoint on this committee to give me a hand is Millie Schoonover, if she approves.
Yes.
And Julie McDonald. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You willing to serve on this committee?
If you think I can help, then yeah.
All right, thank you. And Jim C. Okay. Thank you, guys. I'm gonna need a lot of help on this one.
So just for the record, Mr. Mayor, for section 2.04.240 of the municipal code, the council can veto the appointments. They don't need to approve them, it's just subject to veto. So there's no council action necessary unless the council wants to take some steps otherwise.
Can we veto the resignation? Yes, please.
You got a ball and chain to keep him here, maybe?
I have to.
Anyway.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think this is a great process. The one thought that comes to my mind and that maybe could enhance this, I think the people you've selected are terrific. It just comes to my mind that maybe finding the right couple people, more of general public, instead of consolidated just within the city hierarchy itself. And again, I think the people that are selected are terrific, but 1 or 2 people that are not directly associated with the administration of the city, but have, long-term standing and involvement in the community, I think would strengthen this.
Yeah, I considered that, and I'm still trying to think of how to handle it, whether we submit a letter or post it to the public and have them submit letters of interest to serve on the committee. I would like to see maybe 2 people or 3 to balance it out. But I don't want to get it too complicated.
I think 1
too
or
many
2 or
cooks
2
in
or
a
3.
spoiled pot.
Right, and you realize in the end, this comes back to the full council
Right.
It
anyway.
does.
Right, no, I understand that.
So,
But having that input from the, a broader public, I think that could strengthen the process.
yeah, no, I agree, and that's what I discussed with John and the city attorney when we first began discussing this, was bringing on 3 people from the general public to sit on this committee also. So we will post a letter that people could submit a letter of interest to serve on this committee if they're willing. Then I will go through that at that time and try to determine who out of the, maybe 2 or 3 out of the bunch, to add them to the committee too.
Okay, that's good.
And like John said, the final decision rests with the mayor, whoever that is at the time. Because that, the authority as being a strong mayor resides in what you give him the authority to do, so. Anyway, correct, John?
Yeah, the council has a part of the process for sure, but ultimately the mayor needs to delegate his authority to the administrator. So the council and the mayor want to be on the same page. Right.
And that's why I want this committee to help me and the members of the community to also step up if I can find 3 individuals that want to do it, so. We'll submit a letter, post it, and see what I get.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully we'll get something here. That's what I wanted when I discussed it with these guys a couple weeks ago, so. It's just how to go about it. It's kind of difficult. Anyway, that being done, everybody approves of that. We don't need to vote on that, do we, John?
No, sir.
Okay,
Can I say one more thing?
what?
I just would like to acknowledge the time that John has spent here. He's been a terrific city administrator, previously planner. He's got, there'd be some big shoes to fill here, and he's been a tremendous asset for our community for a long time.
Yes, he is. We all know that. And recognize it. And I don't want to bring too much pressure to bear on him.
Well, not only the city, Mr. Mayor, but also the island.
The whole lot.
The whole island.
And I think he'll continue to serve in some capacity throughout the island. So,
He's a noisy member of the public, maybe.
yeah.
We'll see.
Speaking of, listening in on meetings just to keep us all squared away. So.
Thank you for the kind comments. It's a little early to say goodbye.
Okay, at that point, we're gonna go into executive session so we can discuss this immediate knowledge of the law, municipal charter ordinance required to be confidential to discuss personal matters related to the resignation of the city administrator. So any members of the public that are on the phone, please hang up.
Actually, the council should first take action
Yeah, we have to make a motion to do such.
in public setting.
Okay,
I move to convene an executive session of the Craig City Council to discuss matters immediate knowledge of which by law, municipal charter or ordinance are required to be confidential, to discuss personnel matters related to the resignation of the city administrator.
Second.
Mr. Mayor,
yes, ma'am.
just reminding everyone that, the phone lines are still open. I'll be hanging up.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to move into executive session. As an executive session is Craig City Council to discuss matters immediate knowledge by law, municipal charter or ordinance are required to be confidential to discuss the personal matters related to the resignation of the city administrator. We need to vote on that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if you'll give me a minute or two.